Hello and welcome. This is the Baker Senior Show, and today we have Steve Baker, who is going to help us think about end of life and our Medicare benefits. What do we get? What should we look for? What should we look out for? And Steve's going to go over all the different things that we need to be aware of, because a lot of times we try to ignore that. I know a lot of people try to ignore the end of life care. So Steve, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Or good afternoon.
Or good evening. That's right.
Whatever the case may be, exactly.
That's right. We are live here on this channel, which is YouTube and Facebook. And then after the show's over, we go over to all the podcast platforms. So you can listen to us in your car, take us with you when you're out mowing the lawn or walking the dog. Or you can be here with us live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, Central Time. That way you can ask questions and you can converse with Steve right here on the show. So there is a little chat, and you can just type in your questions or your comments, and Steve will answer anything that you have questions about. Now, today is a very special day to me because as I get older, I'm starting to get reminded that my end of life is coming. Now, I'm going to tell you, Steve, that I just received something in the mail. As we all know, I got my, hey, Medicare wants your information. It wasn't really Medicare, was it? They were sending me some information that I need to fill out with my phone number and send it back to them so that they could talk to me about Medicare. Well, today, when I opened up my mail, it was about senior citizens, which they apparently know I am, and it's a free memorial guide. It's peace of mind. They stole that from you. Peace of mind. Easy as 1, 2, 3. So basically, we are reminded that our end of life is coming. What should we do about it, especially if we have Medicare?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a thing called hospice, and it doesn't work underground because a lot of people know something about it, and in some cases people know very little about it. But hospice is pervasive. It's all across the country, United States, and there's a plethora of organizations and associations tied to the word hospice. Medicare itself, for everyone over 65, and of course, I don't know what the percentages are, but a good percentage of people who are in stage life would be over 65. There would be a certain percentage that would be below that. But for the most part, hospice has been made an integral part of Medicare. And, I've explained A, B, C, and D, Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D, and whatever. I'm not going into detail about that. But a hospice is tied to Part A in Medicare. And pretty much anyone, by necessity, if they're part of Medicare, has Part A. It's all set up and so forth. And really, hospice is actually an integral part of that, part of Part A, and it's just waiting there to be used at a certain point. And there are organizations and associations called hospice. Pretty much, they're mostly 501c3 organizations, which means nonprofit organizations set up throughout the country. And perhaps some of them not, or so forth. But pretty much, like in our area, in our metropolitan area, there's numbers of them. I mean, just numbers. And all one needs to do is just go on Google or whatever you're using and put in hospice. And in will come up a whole bunch of choices as far as hospice goes. So there are organizations and associations. And if someone is in time, by in time we mean they've been to the doctor, and there's a number of ailments that someone might have to cause them to be in a terminal situation. And if a physician really sees that that's going to happen within 6 months, and no one ever knows, how long somebody's going to linger, but within 6 months, let's say, they can order hospice for them. And the way it works is the hospice organization can actually come to the person's home and set up a structure for them and to keep them comfortable and bring whatever they need, all the paraphernalia that they're going to need, even the hospital bed, whatever they need, they will bring it to the home, and they lay up all the lines and all the things that they're going to need to make someone comfortable in the last days and months. So that's hospice. And most of them, well, in fact, all of them, I'm almost sure, are very professional. They know what to do. They know the questions are coming, so they know the answers to the questions. And, well, what about this and what about that? They have all that set up. And I've heard nothing but praise for the people who work in hospice. They don't linger a long time in the home, but they come by on a periodic basis, whatever's needed. They show up and they change this and they change that, or you can imagine, that things need to be done and so forth. And typically the hospital is not the place for that. There are locations for hospice as well.
How do they decide who goes to a hospice location and who stays home?
That's determined by the professionals who run it.
Okay, so if your home environment is chaotic and there's a lot of children maybe, and there's only,
yes.
So it's not appropriate, then does it cost extra, or does Medicare cover that, or how does that work if they have to go to?
Medicare covers it almost completely. Hospice is one of those areas where it's just almost totally paid by Part A of Medicare. So when things reach that stage, typically the family doesn't have to worry about the cost or expense, and they've got everything covered. There's even spiritual guidance, and I have a friend who's a pastor, and one of the things he does on the side is he signs up with hospice, and they send him out on a regular basis to visit if they want it. Some don't. So, but if it's needed, or if it's necessary, or if it's desired, then they come out to the home, and they're the pastors. They know what to say, and so on and so forth, and they give aid and comfort to the family and to the soon to be deceased. So soon to be deceased is like, all right, it's kind of morbid in a way, but we all know. There's only been one person that's in the history of civilization that's died and come back, and that's Jesus. So who knows? I mean, it's just it's just a fact of life, and so it's a good area to go to, and it gives comfort to the family. So go ahead.
Well, I do have some experience with this. I used to volunteer for hospice when I worked for visiting nurses.
Okay.
And this was a long time ago in Florida. And I do remember how kind and how emotionally stable the hospice nurses were. I thought to myself, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But once you're in there and you realize that, this is a human being and they need comfort at the end. And then my next experience with it was a friend of mine, her husband was dying, and he was the kindest man. He was so sweet, and I just loved him. So he was like in a kind of a coma state. I think hospice gives you a lot of morphine for pain and things like that. And so I don't know what was real and what was induced. But anyway, he just kind of laid there, and I thought, he's still in there, he's still
Right.
there. So I started reading to him, and I played music for him, and boy, that he perked up. The next day he was sitting up, and they were like, "Come back, Marion, whatever you did." It was,
Right.
well, I just think that the end of life system that we have set up is so important, and it's so needed, and it is really good. Everybody seemed very calm, and including the man who was at his end of life. So for
Sure.
Medicare to give us that peace of mind that we're not going to have to, pay thousands and thousands of dollars to have somebody come in and help him at the very end, that's priceless, Steve.
Yes, exactly. And as I've indicated, most of them are nonprofit anyway, to start off with. And so they figure everything into their budget, and Medicare itself through Part A pitches in. And so it's almost like a gathering. It's like a team effort. And if you notice, I have a background in nonprofit organizations way back, and I know that if you went to United Way and look at their list, hospice is always in there. So they get their funding that way, and some of them, perhaps a few of them, are for profit. But whatever it is, Medicare is big on that, and they're in there, and they're helping as well. So so somehow it just all comes together, which means that the family is not stressed out in terms of a cost of major cost and so forth.
Now, as a Medicare beneficiary, do you have to do anything, apply for anything? Is there anything that we have to do as we go into hospice, or just anything towards the end of our life?
Well, typically that's going to be part of the conversation. If you call a hospice place as an example, and you explain, where you are, what the doctor needs at some point, the doctor needs to sign off on it. And usually they use 6 months as a guideline. That doesn't mean that at the end of 6 months it's over. They can renew it for another 6 months, and a lot of times nobody knows. Sometimes they just linger on, and so that's just the way it is. It's just God's way of taking care of it, and sometimes not. It just sometimes within a week or two it's over. So it just depends, and they're all professionals. They know their stuff. They know what to do. They know what to say. They know how to direct people. So it's kind of a smooth transition. And
so they don't need necessarily to call you to set up this. They just go. They already have their Medicare card. They just go to the doctor. The doctor knows what to do. He talks to hospice, and so there's nothing that additional with the Medicare card that you have to do.
No.
That's good to know.
It's all integrated in the Part A.
And Part A is part of the traditional Medicare when you sign up. Okay, good.
Yes, both traditional Medicare and the Medicare Advantage both have Part A's involved. So
Okay.
it's all there. It's embedded in the situation in the program. Now, for someone pre-65, then that's another issue, and they know how to handle that as well. They know what to do. They know what to say. They know how to integrate it, bring it into whatever insurance they may have or not. Just depends. But they do it day in and day out, day in and day out. So it's not, nothing will occur that they don't know about already. So that's just the way it is. So it's a really good program.
Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like they've taken the hard part out, because let's face it, we're humans. We are going to face this end of life. and so they've made it as uncomplicated as they can, because the rest of it's very complicated, isn't it, Steve?
That's right. Exactly.
That's why we need you to make it clear. Can I bring in an example of something that just happened to us on Medicare?
Sure.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So for those of you who don't know, Steve helped me with a friend of mine who has Alzheimer's. Now, she's only 70, I think she'll be 71. I think she just turned 70. But she has Alzheimer's, so she's in a nursing, not a nursing home, but a personal care home, which is locked ward where they can't leave. Someone has to come pick them up, or and they have 24-hour care. They're fed, and they have a nice, clean place, and they get their personal care done. Everything is done for them. And Steve helped me with that transition and Medicare, because before she was on a system where she had to go to the doctor. If she had a test or something, we had to go somewhere, and everything was outside of the home, all the doctors and everything. Steve helped me figure out a different kind of Medicare that she could go on, where the doctor would come to the home. So you see, you just don't even know what you don't know. And that's why it's important to call Steve, and his phone number is 832-754-3292. For those of you who are listening on our podcast and can't see that the number is rolling across the screen here, let me repeat it one more time, because I know you had to go get a pen or a pencil. It's 832-754-3292. And basically, you're just going to call him to update, on, do you have the right Medicare? Or if you're not on Medicare yet, which is the right Medicare to get on? Because everybody's situation is different. So anyway, he made this transition really easy. So we get her a doctor that is covered by the Medicare and the insurance that he chose. And the doctor, lo and behold, says, hey, we need an MRI. Well, you can't bring an MRI machine to the home. So this is one of those cases where we have to go out. So what did I do? I had to call Steve and say, Steve, is this covered by her insurance, or am I going to have to pay a copayment or whatever? And he was able to tell me exactly what to do in order to make sure ahead of time that we don't have any surprises, that everything is going to be covered, or how much the copayment's going to be. So you're such a resource. People don't understand what a great resource someone like you can be to a family who is like panicking. What do you mean she has to go for an MRI? You know what I mean? What is an MRI? I've never even had one. So thank you for that, Steve. We appreciate it.
Yep. We have the answers for sure.
Do you have any other stories of, say, how Medicare has helped somebody, say, towards the end of their life? How you were able to help a family, or a question they might have had?
Well, generally, of course, I'm an agent, and I like to talk about healthcare peace of mind, and this is just one of the many pieces of Medicare that fit in there that cause people to have peace of mind. So I happen to know, of numbers of instances where hospice has been used. And so we had a neighbor that was very close to my wife who had a kidney problem, and I actually went and put her on Medicare about 3 or 4 months before her diagnosis. So all that was taken care of, and she had a big tumor in her kidney and so forth, about the size of a grapefruit.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah. So they did surgery and removed the kidney and so forth. But as things happened, it just lingered on, and she had some doctor's visits, and she went to one of the major cancer centers in the United States here locally, and it lingered on. But finally, after a year or 2 or 3, she finally had to, finish up, and so that's when hospice came in. So So I've had a number of instances where that has happened, but it's all part of the same system. So once you get in the system, it's okay. Everything works out. So I think that's about it for our show. It's really one of those things that people need to know about and keep in the back of their mind and park in their brain, because it's when necessary, it's very important.
Well, I want to thank you, Steve, for giving us the peace of mind that comes along with having someone you like in our corner. Thank you. I appreciate that. And for you that are watching or listening to this, I want you to know that Steve is available anytime that you want to talk to him about your Medicare questions. So whether it's end of life care or you're just about to turn 65 and you're not sure exactly what to do, Steve is the person that you want to talk to. And I encourage you to think about your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and those people who are getting ready to get on Medicare. You should share Steve's information with them because this is important. It's peace of mind, and you just can't buy that. So thank you very much for being here with us. We'll be back again next week. Every Tuesday, we'll be live right here on YouTube and Facebook, and it's 8 o'clock Central Time. Thank you again. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.